I'm Tim Alderton, for those who don't know. I'm a horticulturalist here at the Arboretum, and I've been here for a few years and gotten to know the garden and pretty much what's in it and what I might cut on sometimes. So Chris asked me to get a collection of things I found interesting that were in the garden right now. So, and I'll give you a little background why I selected some of these too. So I have three main bouquets here, and I'll tell you what's in each of these here rather quickly. So we're going to start over here, I think, with this one here. So actually, I have two stalks here of Alstroemeria. This one I can't remember the cultivar on right now at the moment, but Alstroemerias will actually grow here in our gardens. And this is something you'll also see at the florist. So if you don't have them in your garden, you can you can easily find Alstroemerias to incorporate into a bouquet that you might want to have. Another great plant that we have in the garden right now is Rudbeckia subtomentosa. This is Little Henry. There's one called Henry Eiler, I believe, which is a lot bigger. This gets about 3 feet tall versus 5 to 6 feet tall for Henry Eiler. And the flowers are quilled. That is, the petals are fused together into a little tube around the outside edge of that. Some in the foliage here in the front. This is Beaumuria. So this is in the nettle family. Beaumuria biloba. Rainy, I think, is the common name for that plant. I just love the texture on it. It's one you have to see up close. I don't know if you can actually see it in the picture. The inflorescence are actually on here. Here's some, they're coming into bud here, and there's actually spent ones that are down in here, much further expanded. But these are related to your stinging nettles, but they don't sting. But a great texture plant to add to a bouquet. Oh, we're getting some thunder around here now, so maybe we need to go fast.
Okay.
I'll talk fast. Another plant I have in here is a sunflower. You guys have all seen sunflowers, and I'm not always happy to use them in an arrangement, but these are some I'm really taking exception to. This one here and this one here. And I think the yellow one, it's Suncredible, Chris, is that right? Do you remember what the one with the bronze center or the darker center is? Oh, we'll figure it out later on, but I have both of them.
Saturn.
Saturn, okay, Suncredible Saturn. There are two proven winners selections of sunflowers that are vegetatively grown. So these aren't ones you're gonna go buy a packet of seed and grow, but the great thing about these, they flower the entire summer. They literally make hundreds of inflorescence of these about 3-inch wide inflorescence here. So you have all these daisies all over. As long as you don't have deer, Chris tells me. He says the deer like to eat them. I haven't had trouble with my rabbits, which is amazing. They've been eating everything else. But the other thing about these, which sometimes is a problem with regular sunflowers, is these are sterile. They don't have any pollen, but they still do have nectar. So we get bees going to these, but they're not harvesting pollen. And so that's not a problem in the garden per se, but whenever you put them in a bouquet, you get the pollen falls off on things a lot of times. You don't have that issue with these. I'll come back to these a little bit later on, but we're gonna also show you some other things. Moving over to this next bouquet here, I have a hedychium. This is a hedychium called Cherry Baby. Really nice fragrance on this one. It's a peachy colored one. The hedychiums at this time of the year are great. I also have I don't know if I'm getting this out of order, but I have a white one over here in this one. This is one called Betty Hodge, which is more like a select form of the coronarium, which is a really good pass-along hedychium, even more fragrant than Cherry Baby. For an experiment, I picked this Senna Marilandica, which we have out in the pollinator garden, out near the monocot garden. Planted those from seed last year. A group collected the seed actually over near, from a wild population near Crabtree, or Lake Crabtree. It's done very well for us this year. I haven't gotten my pollinators to come and eat it this year, but it is eaten by sulfur butterflies normally. But anyways, I wasn't sure if this would be a good cut flower or not, but it has held up. I cut it this morning. Looks perfectly happy. Give it a little bit of different texture there. It's a smaller flower. It's in the pea family. So non-flowering plants in this, or non-flowers in this, I should say, bouquet, are some penstemon seed pods, actually. I'm using these. These flowered in May and June. It's a penstemon digitalis selection, which I don't know the name right offhand on it, but it's one of the dark-leafed ones. So the seed pods have that same coloration, and they just really add a different dynamic to the bouquet. think one last thing I have in here, you might be growing in a container, though there are hardy forms. This is an asparagus. This is Asparagus spondurii, if I remember right. It's one of it's a hardy form of asparagus fern. It does have some tiny white flowers on it, but a great filler plant to put in your bouquet. So moving this direction, we're gonna get a few more things here. We're getting some more pink shades and purple shades. So down here in the front, I have one of our a local introduction. This is Allium millennium, which came from Juniper Level Botanic Garden Plant Delights Nursery. In around 2000, they introduced that one. It's a really good summer flowering allium or onion, ornamental onion. Excellent cut flower as well. Already did the Hedychium over here, Hedychium Betty Hodge. And right here we have a lily. This is one of the Lycoris, and I don't remember which one this is. We have a whole bunch of different complex hybrids in the garden, but this is a nice white with a pink blush to it on this one here. Something that you may all have in your yard, it wouldn't surprise me, as a ground cover or whatnot, this Liriope. And I can't remember the cultivar on this one. It's like Purple Majesty or something like that. Or anyways, it's a newer selection. I'm really liking it. It's heavy flowering. It'll grow in sun to shade. You know, it's easy going, and it's not a weedy Liriope either. It's a clumper. This is one I call disobedience plant, commonly called obedience plant, Physostegia virginica, and I think this is actually Miss Manners, though she still spreads a little bit. Theoretically, you can bend them. I've never figured out the total thing with that. Don't worry about that. I included a grass here. This is Andropogon Lord Snowdon's Big Blue. I had to think about that one. I had to look it up earlier. It's an Andropogon gerardii, I believe. This plant gets great big, but I like the silverness to the foliage. It is in flower right now. These are the inflorescence. And so it just gives a different subtle color to it. Another plant I have here is an Eryngium aquaticum, which actually we used to have some right over here, but I don't have it anymore this year. But it doesn't have to be in the water. It will grow in average garden soil. We also grow it in our scree garden as well. But it's a carrot relative and has these really cool umbels with blue flowers, silver on there too as an undertone. So just another blue tone. Hiding down in here, I didn't have calla lilies, but I have a cousin of the calla lily. This is one of the elephant ears. This is the Thailand giant elephant ear flower, and has a light fragrance. It's not bad. It's not terrible, but it's not great, I should say. But this is another thing you might incorporate into your bouquet. So to finish off some of these here before I do one little thing of that, are down here in the front. I have some plants that only have one individual flower, and I really like passion flowers. They are hard to display, but normally they start to wilt as soon as you cut them. So I don't typically recommend these for a bouquet unless you're going to have them right down in front of you. This would be nice for on a tabletop for a dinner or early evening dinner before they close up. But anyways, these almost start to wilt as soon as you cut them. So I just have them floating here. And cyclamen as well. There's tiny. You put those into a tiny bouquet. You can't put those into a big bouquet. Another plant. Those actually last for several days though. And then I have Zephranthes. I didn't have a lot of what I'm going to tell you about later on, individual flowers or solitaires to show right now. But anyways, this is a Zephranthes or a rain lily. And they only last anywhere. We have one species that I think lasts about 6 hours, and then others maybe last 2 days. But anyways, got some of these. So the main difference on some of these are all individual flowers down here. I have 6 passion flowers and like 5 cyclamens and 1 rain lily there. It's individual flowers. Right here, this is a compound inflorescence. So you actually have, there's 5 open flowers here and 2 buds to come, at least on this Lycoris, and everything else here, that's what's called a compound inflorescence. So to me, you get a lot more bang for your buck sometimes on the compound inflorescence. And some of you might be asking, what about the sunflowers? Isn't that just one flower? And no, that and anything in the daisy family, there's It's the old name for the family is the Compositae or composed flower, which I like to explain to people. So this is actually a whole inflorescence, not just one flower. It's really made up of hundreds of, or maybe anywhere from a few to 100 flowers or more. And on your sunflower, for instance, I'll show you something. Looks like I might have 4 petals in my hand here, but in reality I have 20. I don't know if Alexander's picking that up. But
is that the new math, Tim?
Yes, that's the new math. Actually, most of your Asteraceae, if they have a petal, because not all the center flowers actually don't have petals, but the outer ray type flowers on these sunflowers, for instance, have 5 fused petals. So that's 5 petals.
Okay.
Not 1. So on this Rudbeckia here, same idea. These are fused into a tube, but it's 5 fused petals again. But that's something I always find so cool and interesting about the Asteraceae. But we think it's one flower, but it's literally a whole bouquet. So
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So anyways, I think I'm going to pass this on to Kathleen here, and she can use anything she wants here if she wants to, and she doesn't have to. But
okay, well, thank you, Tim.
That's just my spiel for the day, I guess.
Okay, well, Tim always fills us in with so much information that, well, he did steal my thunder with the Liriope, but Mother Nature seems to be doing even better. I found out I was doing this, and I challenged myself to go out into my garden and find something that would make a beautiful bouquet. And this time of year, 95 degrees, everything looks kind of tired. And then I passed by this group of Liriope, and I saw the flowers, and I thought, let's give it a try. So I picked a bouquet of the Liriope. I picked some of the grasses and put those in the arrangement. What I decided to do, just to see if it would work, I love experimenting with these things. I took some of the grasses and tied little knots in the tip, just to give it a little bit of texture on the tip. And rather than taking the grasses, the leaves, and just stuffing them in, I took a twist tie and put all of the greenery together and did a twist tie around the base of them. Okay, and then what else can we use? Well, there are all of these obnoxious tulip poplar saplings that come up all over the yard. You're lucky if you don't have them, but if you do, they're this sweet little heart-shaped leaves, and it looked kind of nice in this arrangement. So I decided that would be something nice for the mix. So these are just the little trees that I pulled out, cut off the root, and put in water. If there's a leaf that doesn't quite look pretty, you take care of that very simply by snipping it off, and the rest looks good. So just a suggestion to keep your eyes open and try something a little bit different, and go force yourself to look other than the big, beautiful roses or the big, beautiful dahlias or things like that. So just some ideas to share with you that way. So what else I did, I knew it was going to be an extremely hot day. So I did cut some things from my garden. But before we get to the arrangement, I think it's important to talk about what happens. And you're going to want to start, obviously, with a container. Your container should be very clean. Scrub it out. If you're using a narrow container and you can't get to the bottom, I highly recommend buying some denture cleaner. Drop that in the bottom of your vase. That will clean them out beautifully. If you choose to put a preservative in with your bouquet, you can get some of the little packets. If you use the packets, let me recommend that you follow the directions. It calls for 1 packet with a pint of water, which is 2 cups. If you put in more water, you will throw off the chemistry of it, because the idea of this is to feed the flowers and to kill the bacteria. If you add more water, you're kind of thinning out the product that kills the bacteria, and so you're actually end up not doing very much good with it. I do have a recipe that some people want to do if they're doing a lot of arrangements, and it's a very simple recipe with 3 ingredients, and it's a Listerine type mouthwash. All of this can be found at the dollar store, a teaspoon of bleach, and a liter of a lemon lime soda. And you want to make sure you get a non-diet type soda. And you combine all of that in an empty 1-gallon container and then use that in your vase. And that is a combination to feed your flower and to kill the bacteria. So you'll have several options on how to take care of that.
So quick question on that recipe. Do you dilute that with regular water then to fill the gallon? Or
Thank you. Yes, you do dilute it to fill your gallon with water. So you are going to end up with 1 gallon of this solution. So I did find a couple of awesome things when I went through the Arboretum a little while ago to use, but I also brought some things from my garden and some things that I just love. This is Elysium Florida Sunshine. It keeps this color all through the winter. And if you ever look out on a dreary day, you can see this, and it's just like this neon light shining. I just love it. When you're doing an arrangement, you want to be sure that you have removed all of the leaves that are going to be below water. If you leave the leaves, this is where your bacteria is going to start. So take off your leaves, give your stem a fresh cut, and then you put it in your water. And this is true for no matter what you're doing. I do clean these as I bring them in normally, but I also give them another quick little snip before I put them in the water, and I cut them on the slant. And that helps to give more room for the stem so that there's a bigger space for water uptake. So we're just taking off from the bottom. Make sure your clippers are clean and sharp. Here again, if you're going to go through all the trouble to mix up a batch of preservative and then you end up using dirty clippers, you've really not done anything good for your plants, and the bacteria will get in there from the clippers. So a couple of these. And as I'm putting things together, it seems like the yellows and the golden flowers are somewhat coming together for me today. And by the way, if you don't have a vase, don't be afraid to be creative. Use a pitcher, use a glass, use a jar. There's so many things you can use.
I'm a bachelor, and what I used at home was a Starbucks coffee bottle, you know.
That'll work.
A Frappuccino bottle, of all things.
That'll work. From my garden is a Begonia grandis, which is the hardy begonia. And these are great in arrangements. My favorite part of it is the back of the leaf. That's this gorgeous red color. And where they are in the garden, in the west, when the sun's going down, it shines through these, and it just looks like the garden's on fire. They are just absolutely beautiful. They are very happy in the garden, however, and they spread by. None of these have yet. It's a
I was
little
looking
bit
yesterday
early.
for some in the garden, and they're not doing it yet.
They're little bulbules, and they'll form right at each leaf, a tiny, tiny little hard bulb. It's so tiny, it's called a bulbule, and that's how they spread. So they're quite happy. They do like shade, for those of you with a shade garden. They can handle quite a bit of sun as well. Don't be afraid to edit. It was a little bit too big for what I wanted, so take it off. But the flower itself, it just looks like a begonia, and that's what they are. They do die down over winter, and then they come back the following year.
And that one's good almost at least into zone 6, if not into zone 5. So in a sheltered spot.
Yeah. And again, I try to choose things that you might have in your yard. And this is limelight hydrangea. Let's take this down a little bit more. So experimenting is a fun thing to do, and it kind of it forces you to go out and look at your garden in a different way, the way it changes every season. And when I put something together, I do think in terms of, sometimes people ask, how many plants should I use together? Should I do 3? Should I do 5? It doesn't matter. You do what's pleasing to you and what looks good. So we've gone with some things that are fairly large. We're going to go with things that are using a lot of, we'll call it greenery, but a lot of colors that are working well together, and all different sizes. If you stay with the same size, it's not as interesting as if you're mixing your large, your medium, your small. Let's put another one of the hydrangeas in there. Limelight is so great because it holds up so beautifully in this hot weather. Okay, and we'll pull in a little bit more yellows. Now these are from the Arboretum. Tim, what is this?
It's a Hypericum. I don't know which species
It's a
offhand.
Hypericum, okay.
So one of the St. John worts.
St. John's wort, yeah.
I did look at that one this morning and almost cut some of it.
Well, I'm glad I beat you to that one.
There's a lot of that.
Okay, and this, of course, the Eucomis, the pineapple lily. What I do if I'm not sure how to cut a stem, I'll just set it on the table. This is about how tall it's going to be. Is this what I want? Yes, it is. So that way you can tell how much do you want to cut off.
For the Eucomis, I actually find they're almost better as a cut flower than they are out in the garden.
Yes,
they will
I agree with
last
you.
longer. They can literally last months if you cut them and bring them in. They'll go to seed even in a table in a vase.
You're right. Actually, I had a great experience with the Eucomis. I was able to keep one literally for months, you're right,
Yeah.
and it still looked this beautiful.
Yeah.
And I put it in the fair and I got a ribbon. So that for me was a real treat. But so we'll just put something tall in there, a little bit of filler with a solidago. So we've got a whole mix of different sizes here, different heights. But your arrangement has to be what you're happy with. And we'll leave these out. Tim used these, so we'll do something else.
I just threw them. They're not even
Yes,
used.
you did.
I mean,
Yes, you
I didn't
did.
arrange anything really.
Oh, Tim does beautiful arrangements.
And we didn't mention, but Kathleen has done arrangements for years, both at a business as well as volunteering here at the Arboretum.
That's right. That's my volunteer job, is to do the flowers in the McSwain Center here. And of course, haven't had time to do that, let me rephrase that. I haven't done that for way too long.
Don't know why.
looking forward to getting back to doing that again. But something as simple as this, and you can go and you can buy flowers. Now you can go to a florist and buy them. You can pick them up at the grocery store. But don't be afraid to go out in your garden and find some things that will complement it. One of the things that I always heard when I would do arrangements is that I always chose something from the garden to go with the flowers that I had to purchase for whatever the event was. And people always commented because it was always something different. It wasn't the same thing that people saw all the time. So that to me was something really special to do. I picked these because they were in such a perfect stage. These are dahlias. And I think with all the yellow green casts in here, if we put the red dahlias in, it would pick up very nicely.
The backs of those leaves.
The color, the backs, not only the backs of the leaves, but also the flowers of the begonia. So we'll just take off a few of these lower branches. These are going to sit quite low because the stems are a little bit shorter than I might like, but the color is just too awesome. So I just picked 3 of these. Dahlias are such a showstopper, but they just don't last for very long in water. They'll last for a day, maybe 2, but I don't find them to be a flower that holds its beauty for any length of time. I'm going to put this in the front so it shows. So just a little something to put together, give you some ideas. Hope you've had some fun with this. And we'll be glad to answer any questions. Why don't I spin it around a little bit so you can see it from all the different angles. So you've got the tallest pieces in the front, just here. And then different heights. Not everything is down low, but I do think it's important to kind of have something that breaks the vase. It just kind of hangs over, or hangy downy, which is a very official term. But I think that's one that everybody would understand. And it just helps to soften the look of the whole arrangement. So that way you could use it in the middle of a table where it's pretty all the way around. It kind of has a front, but that color does show on all sides. So we'll be happy to take any follow-up questions that you might have.
I have a personal one, and I was doing a lot of typing over here, so I may have missed it, but I did note that you used the eucomis in a grouping of 3.
I did.
And I seem to remember odd numbers being ideal versus even numbers. So like 2 and 4 wouldn't look quite right, but 3 or 5 would look good.
That's basically true.
Yep.
Especially if it's a showy flower like this. This is where your eye's going to start right here and go down.
Mm-hmm.
So I would start with an odd number.
Yeah, your little fillers, no one's going to be counting
Yeah,
those.
no one
You're not going
sticking
to
out
count the
top.
hydrangea?
Well, there are actually 3 hydrangeas.
But
in
no,
here
it's the
too, but yeah, the
inflorescence on the
inflorescence,
individual
yeah, right.
flowers.
So, but yeah, 3 and 5, you almost can't go wrong with your odd numbers. Even 1. If you only have 1, use 1.
Yeah, solitaire.
One's an odd number.
Right, it is.
So there are
It
some
is
questions in the chat, and I'm going to
Okay.
kind of group some of them up together and maybe even add a little personal thought from mine. One
thank
from
you.
Oh, how nice. One from Laura right now is she's commented that she thought that we're supposed to cut the flowers underneath running water or in like a little pool of water of some kind, and that's what I always do for mine. Because the water in stems of plants is underneath negative pressure. And when you cut it, they do suck up air bubbles. And once you have an air bubble in the stem, that xylem tube is no longer useful. So that is the step I usually do.
That would be very helpful.
Yep.
If you had an area where you can cut underwater and move, we're a little bit
We turned the
limited
cascade
on
off on
space
Kathleen,
here.
so she didn't have a source of running water. We thought
did.
audio was more
you
important
had
for
to come
that.
and haul the water. Okay, but yeah, that's a good idea. Or cutting it underwater with,
Yes, I usually just
with
bowl.
a larger bowl or a tub and
Yep.
and cut that way.
I usually
And
have a bowl in my sink that I cut the stems underneath, or running water if they're
It
really
would.
long stems.
Yeah, you do the best you can.
Yep.
Sometimes it's not possible to do that, but in a perfect world and for the most longevity, that would be the way to go.
So the other comment or questions I think involve the water changing and the solutions. Is that compound used frequently? I think I was always taught that that's the first batch that you use when you're doing water, because that's when the plant's going to absorb the most water, and that's when it's the most critical to use. And then I just either top it off or just put fresh water in it from then on.
You can do a couple of things. The first thing I do after a day or two, I'll look at the water container. If it's not perfectly clear like this, I'll just dump the whole thing and start over again. After a day, there's a very good point in that plants will absorb initially a whole lot of water. So you may end up having to add water the next day. You'll see the water level is down. You'd probably still be okay, but sometimes I use this, most of the times I don't. I find that I do very well just by making sure the vase is clean and the water is clear. And I have had very good success with that. But if you want to do it, just try using it the first time and then just doing a complete change of water. But I would not mix this from the first batch with simply more water, more than just a small amount.
Tap water itself does have a little bit of chlorine in it.
It
so
does.
That is a nice sterilizing thing. But as she mentioned, if it's starting to get cloudy, it's already past the point that it should have been changed.
Yeah.
And the cloudiness could be bacteria inside of it, other debris, and that could clog up the little straws that are known as xylem. That is where it's sucking up the moisture and getting up to the pretty parts.
Getting it up to the...
So keep your water clean. That's one of the best things you can always do. And I think sometimes you can even cut nice new fresh parts of the stems off if it's gotten really bad.
You can cut off the bottom, or, and this is, I wish more people did this little trick. After a couple of days, you look at this and you say, those dahlias were so beautiful, but they've just gone downhill. Pull them out and put in something else. You'll still have a beautiful arrangement, but get rid of what doesn't look pretty anymore. So there are a couple, that's another way that you can keep this looking pretty without having to start all over again. So just pull out what has already gone its own way.
Yeah, and that bouquet, you're going to have a base of that Elysium, and then the hydrangea is going to last for a long time, and the eucomis.
The hydrangea is even at a point where it's going to dry.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. When your hydrangea, now this is limelight, so this is pretty much the color, but it's whiter when it's fresher, but when it starts to get this green cast and it feels papery, it's ready to dry. So a lot of these will stay like this over the winter. And you've got a beautiful arrangement for wintertime with your dried hydrangeas. So that's another thing that you can try. But,
Darla in the chat has asked, is it best to cut the flowers early in the day? And I know when we're doing our propagation workshops, we always encourage people to cut early in the day, because that's when the plants themselves have the most moisture. And that's, of course, critical for cut flowers as well.
You're absolutely right in that. Cutting them early in the day is the key. I had to be here this afternoon, so I did cut some at about 1:30, and it was a little bit toasty, and I would never have cut at that time if I'd been able to be here early in the morning. Or when you go out early, the dew is usually still on them, and that means they're really fresh, they're still cool from overnight, and they'll be very happy in your container for much longer. So yeah.
And we have another question here. This one's from Barbara. She's asked, what do we use for cleaning your clippers? And of course, just a 10% bleach solution should work. Even alcohol should work. And we all now have sanitary wipes.
Don't we though?
So you can use
Squeeze
those.
some gel on them.
Yeah.
Some gel.
Sanitizer gel.
Yeah.
What I do with mine, and I do wipe them down on occasion, but sometimes I look at them, and after they're used for so long, they just get goop on them from all the moisture and the stem cuttings. And I'll just take them to the kitchen sink with a little Brillo pad. It has soap in it. I'll scrub this down. I'll get out my sharpener and I'll sharpen the blades. That's when they really get to the point where they need to be done. But a quick wipe with an alcohol wipe is a easy, simple solution.
So one big difference, you're not outside pruning in your yard if you're not collecting the materials. When you're just cutting your flower arrangements, if you infect your plants, they're going to be dead anyway.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
So you're not worried too much, but yeah,
no
keep
matter
things
whether
clean.
the point is, no matter whether you're doing flowers or trimming your plants, it's a really good idea to keep these clean.
So we had a question in here, and you commented about it, using short-lived plants like the dahlias in your arrangements. Do you replace the dahlias when they die?
Sure.
You can easily do that.
Easily do that. Take those out and put in the alstroemeria.
Because in the arrangement that you have, your pineapple lily and the limelight hydrangea are going to last forever. And then something like the begonias or the dahlias are going to
This Elysium also lasts for a very long time. So these I know last for a good amount of time, but the begonias, I'm going to say probably 4 or 5 days, which isn't too bad for something from the garden. It's a good idea if you can look at these. I pick my plants when they're still in budded form. If you wait until they're open, they're going to shatter a whole lot faster. If you pick them when they're budded, they'll open in time, in a day or two, and last a lot longer.
For some plants, it's the bud when it has some color showing.
When it has, daffodils are a perfect example. In the wintertime, you're afraid of a freeze coming. My daffodils are just starting to pop and they show yellow. Go cut them. So as soon as they show color, you can cut. What else do we have in the chat?
We had just a question about a flower type. We had someone ask, I've already lost it in the chat, if salvias would make a good cut flower. And I commented they might, but they're going to drop a lot of, because Marianne, they probably do a lot of dropping of individual flowers, whereas a lot of the ones that they chose wouldn't.
Yeah, that's my experience with salvias. I thought about cutting some this morning, and it's like, they're a little bit messy because the individual flowers maybe last 2 or 3 days, I'm going to say. But they keep on going up the inflorescence and falling off.
Right.
One that I didn't cut today, and I like actually, it's not salvias, but hostas, which to me, the buds as they, before they open are nice, when they're open they're nice, and they will last, even the closed flowers will last 3 or 4 days after they've been done.
They do, and those are
salvias
still
on the other hand,
very
no,
pretty.
they just fall off.
If you pick a salvia before that bottom flower starts to open, you're okay. But still, it's going to drop, which is their natural thing. If you don't mind brushing off a couple of spent flowers, they'll still last for a good 5 or 6 days. But you're going to just be brushing off a few little things off your table, but not a big deal.
So we do have a comment in the chat from Helen. She commented that dahlias are best picked when they are open. So bud stage, they probably will not open. And there's going to be some plants out there that cannot do that. And the floral industry knows exactly when to pick their plants.
Right.
Because they'll pick them right away, because that's going to be their ideal time
I did not
to do
know that about dahlias, so thank you, Helen.
Yes. So let's see what else. Oh, I know there was a comment in here about a frog earlier. And,
not the frog back here.
Well, we have brought frogs in, tree frogs in plants before, but no, this was a floral frog. Have you ever used those? Any comments on that?
I've used frogs from time to time. The ones with I have a collection of frogs, some antique ones, some modern ones. But the ones with the glass holes in them, they only take a specific width of stem. You can only put in somewhat thinner stems in those. If you have the ones with the spikes in them, then again you need a special type of a stem that will hold on with that spike, such as these would hold on with the spikes. And this little critter likes me, but that's okay. So yeah, I do use those from time to time.
I've used them as well, and I think most of my needs for them is I probably don't have enough material like you did. You kind of created a foundation of some stemmy plants and then poked in the more prettier flowers between them, and it's the other materials that help hold them up.
I like using things like the hydrangea fill in space, and you can stick stuff through them and use that as kind of as your frog.
So Mary Ann also asked in the chat if 4 o'clocks make a good flower, and I think that'd be even worse than the salvia because that's only open.
They're
in
open
the evening
overnight.
And that'll be pretty while you're asleep.
Evening dinner, maybe.
A late dinner.
And then fall off. And if you're okay with just an evening show, then that's great.
That's kind of going back to the passion flowers. They're one day at most, 6 to 8 hours, and they're done.
And speaking of evening shows, one that I've heard is really fun entertainment for people is that big white flower datura that we have. And what's the botanical name for that one, Tim?
I'm not sure if we have Rightii or Metal. There's several species, and I don't
Kind
know
of all
which one we
over,
have.
don't they? It's
Jimson
the one that we have here at the
weed.
Arboretum that has the big white flowers.
But it's a datura.
You can tell if the plant's going to open that night. And if you have a dinner party, you can bring them enclosed. And while you're eating dinner, your guests can watch them open because they open up fairly quickly. So that can be some dinner entertainment if you wish.
I used to cut hibiscus, but for church. But I knew that they were only going to last. You cut them in the morning and they're done in the afternoon and evening. So.
Right. But it's interesting. You're talking about hibiscus one day. Everybody knows a daylily lasts a day.
But you can get a whole
hostas.
inflorescence on the daylily, which is nice. And hostas only last a day or so.
Hostas one day. Yeah. So it's amazing how many flowers are out there that are a one-day flower that you don't think about other than, say, using the term daylily.
Yeah.
But,
that reminds me, I remember taking flowers to our teachers growing up. We always had irises and peonies that we give to the teacher. And my mom always instructed us to give the teachers a word. Don't throw the irises away when the individual flower goes away because the next ones will go ahead and keep them.
Yeah.
So don't throw your irises away.
I hope the teachers learned their lesson.
I hope so too.
Okay.
At least that's how I remember it. Maybe mom came in at that time and told the teacher. I can't remember if she's here. I think she might be here, so she can always fill everyone in. Let's see if anything else. I don't think we had any early questions. We did have someone confirm that Begonia grandis was eaten by deer. I wasn't sure about that one, but someone said that hers did eat it.
Mine don't know that.
Oh, good.
So we're not going to tell them.
A lot of people like the Florida sunshine in the chat. That's good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
There was a comment about repeating the 3 ingredients in the ingredient pack, and I know it was
sure.
Do you just want to type
mouthwash.
Yeah, we can type it in so everybody can have it.
I think Alexander's going to hold it up to the screen so everyone can see it. But that mouthwash was a little tiny package, wasn't it? I mean, the little travel size bottle.
A small bottle. You only need 1 ounce of it, so you don't, unless you have some in your bathroom cabinet.
Yeah, and a teaspoon of bleach, and then 1 liter of lemon lime soda. And the big instruction for lemon lime soda is to make sure it's flat. You don't want to be generating air bubbles in the xylem.
Right, and full sugar, not diet.
Yeah, and as Kathleen said, make sure it's sugary, not the fake sugar, but true sugar. Plants cannot use fake sugars and get energy from it. You mix it all together in a gallon jug and just top it off with water and make sure it's nice and full. And
what other questions do we have, Chris?
Someone asked if you can move the arrangement to where the hat is. I mean, they just want a better view of it. Because there's plant material behind it. So I think it's just more camouflaged.
With this one?
Your pretty one that you created, put it in front of the hat. There you go. It was really masking itself behind or with the ferns and the thalia behind it. And we
can just stand here.
There you go. There you go. Best of buds. I missed it earlier. Someone's asked Robin asked, where do you buy the preservative packets? They probably sell it right where you buy the flowers.
A lot of these came from the flowers that you buy in the grocery store. Most of them have a little packet in there.
Yep.
I don't know if you can buy other than you could ask at a florist. A florist will sell some to you.
And we all know that big online company.
Just online in general.
We
probably
do.
Not there.
Floral preservatives.
They could be ordered online. These are made by Crystal, is the brand.
And Kathleen has those. That probably shows that she doesn't really use them. She probably creates her own with the lemon lime or doesn't even use anything. And
then don't forget cleaning the vases.
Yep.
And just buy the cheapest version you can find of effervescent dental cleaner to clean out your vases. And this works so well. It surprised me when I first started using it. So Simple tips.
And I never thought of that. And it's like, how do you get down in that ring on the bottom of that vase?
Exactly.
It's like
Impossible.
Yeah, drop
Mary
one
Ann
of these.
is now asking about the hedychium. She's wondering what once you cut them, do they continue to open?
they will to some extent. I've tried like transporting them home to Pennsylvania a few times, and they don't always, if I let them dry out for a little while and even recut them. But these should be fine. The flowers only individually last a day or two. But when you have a whole inflorescence, you keep on getting more that will open. At least some of them will open. So I like them for their fragrance. It actually is. If they were the ugliest thing, fragrance is.
They're super fragrant. But again, another one-day flower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like our final question is, Marilyn would like to know if you two coordinated your shirt colors today.
Did not know. That's what we were joking about.
We did get a good laugh out of it, though.
They even matched the tablecloth. Well, here
How
at
did we
NC
do
State,
that?
we're required to wear red. I'm not too sure why our picture is blue. It's pretty much not allowed. We have to use red over here. So that looks like I took care of all the questions. Thank you, everyone, for coming out today. I hope you enjoyed today's program. I know I had a great time. It was really fun hosting Kathleen for today. So thank you so much for coming out and being one of our guest speakers. And thanks, of course, always to Tim for being here for today's program and talking about some cut flowers from your home garden. And we look forward to seeing you all next week and hopefully even this weekend for Gardening in the South. Remember, that's a free program, so we know the price is right. See you then. Have a good one.
Tim, a quick question.
Oh, we got one more quick question.
Okay.
Yep. What
What's
is
the
it?
flower on the wall above you that looks
Up
like
here?
a hosta? Yes.
With the white,
Yes.
there's white flowers. That is Hemiboea I can't think of it. You have
You asked for it, didn't you? I don't even know how to type hemiboea.
It's Hemiboea.
It's in search field.
It's actually, this is one Mark collected the seed for several years ago. We have 2 or 3 different clumps of it in the lath house, and it grows everywhere. It's an African violet relative.
Spell hemiboea.
Hemboia.
I lost track where you were.
Hemboia, I think.
Okay.
Or I'm terrible at spelling, especially spelling bee stuff. I need to write it down or type it out.
But that African violet relative.
Relative
right?
from Southeast Asia. It runs. I have several patches in the lath house.
And it works on the cracks.
And it's done fine up there. I've been amazed.
Okay, it looks great
It
compared
didn't
to
flower
the curve.
last year up there, but this is the first year it's flowered.
It's adorable.
Yeah.
Very pretty. It is.
It's great. And you have other plants up there too. Maybe we'll have to do a program for what grows in the Cascades. Because we all have one of these at home, don't we?
Yeah. A grotto. Everyone has one.
Kathleen, you were fabulous.
Thanks a bunch, everyone. Hope you have a great afternoon and evening, and see you all on Saturday or next week on Wednesday, or hopefully both.